So you need to know 3 things. Who's your pension with? I know that sounds really funny, but most people don't know where their pensions are. Yeah. So who is it with? And then remembering that you're paying these people, they work for you. Ring them up and ask them, what is the name of the investment that I'm in? And can you email me a list of all the different investments that I can be in? And then lastly, you want to know what's going in. And if you paid in more, would your employer pay in more? So if you know those things, so know who it's with, find the name of the fund you're in, and then take the name of that and just go into Google, put TrustNet into the Google search bar and then the name of the fund, and it'll bring up a fact sheet. And just as a quick acid test, is my fund outperforming the benchmark that they've picked? There's 2 lines on the graph. Are you higher than the average? If you're higher than the average, it's a rough sense check that you're in the right direction. And if it's not doing well or it's not achieving your goals, then start to look through the list of all the different funds that you could be in, and pull on the resources of the pension provider. They're not going to be able to give you advice, but they're going to be able to say, can you give me a list of all the global multi-asset funds? Just getting that right. Like I had last year, I'm on a real rampage now with employers' default pension schemes, because these pension funds get picked for you, and you trust your employer to do the right job because presumably the pension companies know more than you. But not more often than not, because thankfully a lot of companies are getting it right. But there are big companies out there that are getting it really, really royally wrong with their pension default fund choice. I had a lady in December last year, her pension pot in the default fund in a growth mandate, so taking high amounts of risk, had achieved 5.2% over the last 5 years.
Wow.
And that is so way off what she needs it to be doing. And she's in her 40s. So
is that average per year or total?
Yeah,
no, total.
Yeah.
With inflation at 10% a year. So she's lost a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And she's in her 40s. This is the time when we need that money to be working hard for. So it's things like that I think just a session with an expert can just sense check. Am I going wayward? She was also going wayward because she was paying far too much into her pension. She was breaching the annual allowance and getting herself into all sorts of tax bothers that she just didn't realise.
Another thing, it's either the People's Pension or Nest. The only fund that they offer that's 100% equity is their Sharia fund, which is like people would look at that and go, that's not me. But that's actually the one that for the youngest people is probably the more sensible growth option if they want the most risk, which most people tend to.
I think you've got to just don't look at a pension label. If something's classed as balanced or aggressive, what do they actually mean? Yeah. Dig in deep. And on that trustnet.com, so there's a graph at the top and then there's some blurb and some handsome pictures of the fund managers that are worth looking at alone. And then if you go below, you'll see 2 pie charts. And in those pie charts, it'll show you how are you split around the world, but also how much of your money's in equities. And you just want to tot up roughly what percentage of my money is in equities and how much is in cash or property or bonds. And it's that equity bit, that percentage that you really want to know.
Could you explain the logic as a financial advisor of how you would use bond allocation as people got older so they could maybe understand that?
Yeah, so ignoring current market conditions. Yeah. The theory is, very traditional theory is that equities are what's going to drive your portfolio and help you beat inflation. Bonds are going to be the brake and the stability, and they're going to help you protect your portfolio when things go wrong. And they're meant to be negatively correlated. So when one thing's doing well, the other thing's doing badly and vice versa. And so a traditional balanced portfolio would have 60-40 split. And then the last 2 years have come around.
60-40 in which way?
60 equities, sorry. Yeah, 60 equities, so 40
stocks
bonds.
and shares.
And then the last 2 years have just completely turned that on its head, that we've seen how volatile and the risks that can be involved in bonds. But yeah, traditionally that would be the role. When as you get closer to retirement, you're being pulled in so many directions because you've got this short-term need to spend. So that sequencing risk that we talked about. If markets fall, does that mean you should just go and hibernate for the first 2 years of your retirement? or does it mean you should need to get out there? Which is why you have that large amount of cash, which some people find a preposterous amount of money to have, but it allows you the freedom to do what you want to do. But also, inflation in old age is much higher than for younger people, because inflation tends to affect your utilities, like we're seeing now, a greater degree, the food and the things that older people tend to be consuming more of.
7-day weekend, as you put it in our last conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
You're always on your weekend. Yeah.
Damien and me propped up at the bar at the old people's home every day.
Yeah, mate, we're going to be there in the high-end bougie retirement home. Whiskey, just mixing it up.
Whiskey sours.
9 a.m. whiskey sour.
The day started right.
I don't know if you ever watched Coronation Street, but Ken Barlow went to a very swanky care home, and I always think that's what I want in my mind.
Yeah.
Anyway. So where did we get to? Oh yeah, 60-40 split. And what you're trying to do as you build your portfolio in retirement is be mindful of inflation so that you're taking enough risk, but also be wary that you do just want to live your life, which is where the security and the lower risk investments come from. But what a lot of pension plans are doing behind the scenes is they're moving you to cash so that on the day you retire, you're in cash 100%. And for most people, that's just not what you need now. No. So I think that's called lifestyling. So you want to understand, how is my lifestyling? Is it lifestyling completely to cash, or is it lifestyling me to more of a balanced portfolio? The money that you're not going to spend till your 80s and 90s, is there a reason why that shouldn't be in equities when you're 60?
Yeah. Because what people don't realize is that age gap is the same as 30 to 60 or whatever. You know, if you're 60 to 90 and we're planning for that, why wouldn't you be
an extra 20?
Yeah, you need it. You want it to grow. In the market, yeah. You don't just want a lump of cash at 60 and go, and that is you. I will blow that in the first few years. You know what I mean? The big goals and all of that stuff, and this whole thing of like, I want to sort my life out this year. What I've taken away there is actually, if you look at your pension at work, you get insured and you get an emergency fund, then you've probably had a pretty good year one.
Yeah, you could definitely pat yourself on the back after that. And also, if you've just setting aside to think about what you actually want will be worth its weight in gold. Because if I notice that I'm bumbling along in life and I don't really have a direction, I don't really achieve anything. Whereas if I know where I'm headed, without realising, I achieve more.